So I know that you've built an amazing community with Tribe Training.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, how have you been able to build such a strong community with Tribe Training? Welcome everyone to the main journey, a way for you to join me on a learning journey through life. My name is Samuel Main, and today we welcome Callum Slater to the show. We first met for a coaching program a couple of years ago now. Since then, you have gone on to start Tribe Training, which is a nutrition, training, and lifestyle education company, empowering people to live amazing lives and reach their full potential. With multiple locations already and owning a gym, Callum is on a mission to continue expanding Tribe Training and to serve as many women around the world as possible. Welcome, Callum, dude. Appreciate you joining me.
Thank you, bud. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the main podcast. I've been following it and watching it grow, and love to be here.
Mate, I appreciate that. I love always getting I get these random messages every now and then from people that are listening. I'm like, oh, I forgot that everyone can listen to this.
Yeah,
that is refreshing. Yeah, it's refreshing. I appreciate that. So, dude, I would love just to kick this off with a little bit more of an insight into Tribe Training, what you're up to, some of the cool things that you're doing over there.
Yeah, so Tribe Training, as you kind of touched on in the introduction, I founded it back in 2017. We met on a business retreat where I kind of just founded Tribe Training. I just qualified and become a personal trainer, and I had a passion to help people. Before Tribe Training come about, I actually spent 4 years studying to be a PE teacher. So I spent 3 years at university and then a second qualification to complete my teaching PE teaching degree, where I qualified. But throughout that, whilst working in secondary education, I just wasn't fulfilled. I would drive to work and kind of already be thinking about what time I'm going to be coming home, or counting down to the weekend. So I'd spent like £50,000, 4 years at uni to become a teacher, which my parents were proud of. It was cool when you told people you were a teacher because it's like a well-respected job. But I just didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. So I took the decision to, after qualifying and teaching for 6 months on a temporary basis with just doing cover and stuff, to go traveling, to find myself. I kind of laugh when I say that because that's not kind of really why I went. I just went to kind of get away and explore. And during that time, I spent loads of my time listening to podcasts. It was kind of the early stage of podcasting, and I was working on building sites. So I don't know if you've ever been a manual labourer, but I have no skills in building. I'm horrendous. I can't
Me
even.
too, mate.
I can't even put up anything on the wall or anything. But what I was good at was working hard and being told what to do. So I was just being told what to do, manual labourer, working on building sites and just kind of clearing up mess. But during that time, I could just get on with it for 8 hours a day. So I would just listen to business owners, nutritionists, fat loss coaches, talk about fitness and helping people. And they all had one thing in common, which was them being self-employed. And I didn't like teaching because it's very structured, very rigid. You have to teach off a curriculum. You have to report to a manager or a head teacher or a leadership team. And you don't really have much flexibility and freedom in what you're doing. Yes, you can teach a football lesson a little bit different than the other teacher. But it's very kind of structured and rigid, and you have to do follow the school system. And that wasn't for me. And then there was all of these cool men and women that were helping people on a large scale and creating wealth from it. So having flexibility and wealth from the business they were creating. So I just spent literally 6 months, 8 hours a day, listening to podcasts, learning, listening to people's journeys, entrepreneurs, fitness professionals, gym owners. And then I got back from the traveling, and I was like, I'm never going to teach again. I taught a little bit for a few days, just to basically pay the bills, because as a cover teacher, you can earn like £150 a day, which was a lot for me back then. So I did that for a little bit, and then I essentially qualified as a PT in over a couple of weekends course, and have blagged it since then.
Love it. Love it. I actually read on your LinkedIn that you completed your PGCE. I wasn't sure if you'd actually gone into teaching or not. So that's super interesting. What skills transferred over from doing your PGCE to then becoming a PT?
So for me, like I'm into fitness, but not anywhere near as much as most personal trainers are.
Yeah.
For me, my biggest skill, like that comes natural to me, is helping people. Like I'm a servant. Like, for example, if we have a dinner party or I go around mum and dad's house for Christmas dinner, like I'll do everything. I'll cook the dinner. I'll make sure everyone's okay. I'll get the drinks, and not because I get told to, but that's my natural, like my instinct is to make sure everyone's okay, and to make sure everyone's having a good experience, to support people, to help people. So like my biggest passion was like sport, which is why I did PE, but more importantly, helping people. But I just didn't feel I was kind of getting enough from teaching kids.
Yeah.
Because when I was teaching the couple of schools I worked at, you would see kids in a lesson for like 50 minutes. By the time you get changed, by the time you've got unchanged, done a warm up, you get like 30 minutes with someone. So like the impact you can have on a group of 30 boys or girls that don't actually have their PE kit is pretty limited. Whereas when you're working with someone one-to-one, or now we have big groups like 300, 400 members across our 2 or 3 locations, we can actually help people like achieve life-changing results. And when I say life-changing, like sometimes that sounds a little bit kind of cheesy and corny, but like when I look at what we actually do, like it literally changes people's lives. So I think the biggest skill that I have that was kind of transferable across both is the passion and willingness to help people, and that just comes natural to me. And I think a lot of trainers, I don't know about you, I know you've worked with a lot of trainers, I think a lot of trainers get into the industry because they like training, and then they don't actually care about their clients. They love training and being in the gym, but they're not like passionate about people. 100%. So their results are limited.
I actually used to speak about this a lot, in that just because someone is a good athlete doesn't mean they're a good coach. It's a totally different skill set. And we actually see this a lot in the CrossFit world, is that someone's an amazing CrossFit athlete, but they can't communicate and transfer those skills to other people, because it's a different skill set altogether. I'm really intrigued. So you mentioned, obviously, to become a PE teacher is this massive undertaking, 4 years of study. To become a personal trainer, I think it's a 6-week course now that you go through. To become a CrossFit coach is 2 days, which I think is ludicrous. And I'm from that world. Do you think that the personal training qualifications and what the experience you need to start being a PT should be longer and more extensive?
Yeah, like without doubt, because the course itself is a 6-week course or a 4-week course, and it's even worse than it was when I qualified. Like I qualified in 2017. I think you actually have to physically turn up somewhere. So you actually have to go somewhere and be taught by a real person. Whereas I've qualified 10 level 2 and a couple of level 3 fitness instructors and PTs in the last 3 years through my business. So it's all online. So they sit on a laptop for 6 months because they do it on top of their jobs, and they have to do 2 online demonstrations. Like I give them loads of training and support, so they become really good at their jobs. But like my mum could pass it, and like she doesn't know anything about personal training, bless her. So I think the qualification process and the learning is nowhere near thorough enough. It's not intense enough. You don't actually, like, the advice I give to the people that work for me now is like, I tell them, I'm honest, I'm like, all the courses are rubbish. they all teach you the same thing. Do the quickest and easiest one, which is the cheapest to get qualified, and learn with me, or learn on the job, like on the tools. Actually with like real people, because I can teach them 10 times more. They can learn 10 times more in a local gym, or working in a group, or helping women or men like one-to-one, way more than they can like going through nutrition or physiological models on slides.
God. I love that you mentioned that, getting the experience. It's really interesting because obviously you said initially they need to get more experience and need a longer qualification process, but actually what they need is experience in the real world, working with a coach that's been doing it for how many years. When I look back at my journey, so my degree was in sports coaching.
Yep.
And then during that time, I was essentially interning or shadowing a coach at a CrossFit gym for over a year before I even coached my first class. And then I moved out to Dubai and got to work alongside some of the best coaches, even to this day, that I've ever worked with.
Yep.
And the reason I was able to progress so quickly was because I was shadowing another PT.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, if I was speaking to a personal trainer now, I loved what you mentioned about go and do a course and get it done as quick as you can, and then go and get hands-on experience, and go and, you know, learn on the floor, which, like you mentioned, is even more difficult now because everything's online versus offline.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I think, like, obviously me and you kind of like, we have a very kind of growth mindset where we want to always be better and learn, and like what we have isn't enough. But I think a lot of people, and a lot of people that I've worked with, like, I don't know, maybe it's whether it's ego driven, or like they think that volunteering or interning or shadowing, like they're above that. Like the same as what you did when I was at university. I worked at Nottingham Forest for 6 months, and my job was literally to test the urine of the under 18 players, to weigh them, to measure them at like 7 a.m. before they started training. Like, did that for 6 months for free because I was working at one of the best football clubs in the last 50 years. And then after that, I worked for my friend online, who's now like a multi-millionaire, one of the best marketers in the world. And I worked for him for a year. I was getting paid £10 an hour. I could have earned the same at Tesco's. Nothing wrong with anyone who works at Tesco's or supermarket, but I could have literally earned more doing a job in a supermarket. But that was like the best experience I've ever had, working with someone who was like 10 years ahead of me. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people do enough. Like, I've had a lot of conversations with people about jobs, and they always ask me, how much are you going to pay me? I'm like, oh, if that's your first question, maybe we're not a good fit.
You've answered your own question. Nothing.
Yeah, because like for you, like you did a year literally watching someone like do their craft every day in a CrossFit gym. And like you probably did that maybe for free or for like little
completely
money.
Free. Yeah, completely free.
That allowed you to then travel the world and be a great CrossFit coach. But I think a lot of people skip that step because, I don't know, maybe they think they're like, I think there's a kind of, don't know what your thoughts are on it, but like the industry, when you become a personal trainer, like a lot of them, I don't know, become entitled, or they think they're like beyond, like better than someone else because we earn £40 an hour, whatever. Whereas like I'm always open to like learning, exploring new things. Like I have two coaches now that teach me fitness stuff and train me. So I'm always open to like learning and growth.
I think it definitely goes through stages. Like, and it's also relative to someone's ego, someone's experience. It's very difficult to categorize. I'm really interested, if you was to go back to either start being a personal trainer again, or in starting your business, what would you do differently?
I've always had mentors. Like we know each other now because we're on a mentorship program together. We met 4 years ago on a mentorship course. But the delay in trying to work it out for myself, like that gap that's often been too big. Like I'm struggling with something, whether that's marketing or whether that's finances, like I'll try and work it out myself. That's got shorter and shorter now over the last 6 years. But when I first started, I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, surely how hard can it be? So I'd delay the time between, I'd expand the time between me trying to work it out myself and then getting help. But whenever I've hired help, like I've exponentially grown because of that. Quicker, easier, less stressful. So for me, I think having like guidance, direction, like that's what your job was when we were on the program. Like your job was literally to support us in the first parts of our business. And like for me, that's been a game changer. Because I think doing it on your own is tough.
Yeah.
Especially
it's called opportunity cost. Ultimately, is that the longer you're delaying it, the more opportunity ultimately that you're losing. So there's actually a talk that Elon Musk gives about this, where the reason he was so aggressive and frantic in his early days was because the cost for him in setting this business up right now wasn't that much. If it took him an extra month, it wasn't that much. It didn't cost that much.
Yeah.
But he knew when the business was fully operational, a month could be multiple billions of pounds. So that was the cost of him going slow right now, was £1 billion a month more. So I love that you brought in, ultimately getting support, mentorship quicker in areas that you needed to develop. It's always something for us to work on.
Yeah, definitely. And especially with like someone that you resonate with and someone that has kind of been there and done it. Like, because I could, with my boot camp, I like think of an idea and think it might be a great idea or a new way of doing something, a new way of marketing or a new way of supporting the clients with their nutrition. And I could just run it by you or run it by one of my mentors, like, oh, I'm going to try this. I'm like, oh no, don't try it. I tried it 3 years ago. It doesn't work. But it could have taken me 9 months and thousands of pounds like to implement that, and it isn't actually going to work. So for me, having some kind of like mentor and support, because like when you do like if we're talking about being a personal trainer or business owner, like you have not, like I've never run a business. No one ever taught me about money or taxes or finances. I just like did the course, got a piece of paper, and they're like, oh, you're employed now. So I just like started working in Pure Gym. Like I was clueless.
Yeah, the person who makes the most money isn't the best coach, is the best marketer. So you mentioned there your boot camp. If someone was looking to start a boot camp, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest mistake that people make, and the one that I used to make, was the pricing structure.
Okay.
So what typically people do is they offer either one of two things. They offer like low ticket, so like a £25-30 a month group training model, where they might do 7 to 10 classes a week in their local village hall or football pitch or tennis court, and then they might offer some kind of support around that with nutrition and helping people with that. But what that does is you get to a point of a certain amount of clients at £30 a month, and then you get full, or you fill all your spaces. Most people do this kind of what we'd call organically. So that basically means without running paid ads. So through Facebook groups, like begging your friends and family to come. That's what I did when I first started. And essentially you fill up, like I got pretty full and busy with everyone paying £30 a month. And I kind of hit a ceiling. And that ceiling is okay if that's all you ever want to earn, or if you want to coach the sessions forever. So I remember in 2019, I signed up to a business program which literally supported boot camps like me. And on the first call, my mentor, he told me I had to triple my prices overnight for new people, and triple my price overnight, but provide more value for them. So it wasn't just turning up and boot camps and see you later, see you next week. It was like proper structured training with nutrition support, accountability. And doing that, firstly, people got better results, because for the first 2 years, I had like a money box. I didn't know who was turning up. People would turn up when they wanted to. If they're running late from work or had a bad day, they wouldn't show up. Had no structure, no way of tracking who was there and who wasn't. They'd have to find £6. So if they couldn't find £1 or a £5 note, they wouldn't turn up. And I didn't support them with nutrition and stuff. So like only 20% of the group would get results, but I was one-to-one PTing alongside it. So like all of my one-to-one clients were getting great results, mainly due to like my skill, like, and my passion, of helping people. And I'd support them massively outside of the workouts. Like the workouts for me, like that wasn't the most important part of their journey. I was supporting them with like mindset, lifestyle, nutrition help, like helping them with their morning routine, helping them where to go and get their lunch from. And they were getting amazing results and I was getting great transformations, but my boot camp guys weren't. Only like the super motivated ones that kind of been training for years were. And I was like, why is this happening? I was like, oh, it's because like they haven't got me. Not because I'm amazing, but they haven't got like the support. So I tied them together with the help of my mentor. And then that allowed me to help them get better results, help me have an actual business, like without taking £6 cash and having no idea what was going on. But then ultimately that's allowed me to step away, because when I say step away, it's not because I don't love coaching. I love coaching. I love delivering the group workouts, but I wanted to grow multiple locations. And to do that, it's really hard to do it when people pay £30 a month.
Yeah.
Because you get to a ceiling of say 25 people in a group and you're only earning like, I don't know, £1,000 to £2,000 a month. And by the time you pay someone, if you want to pay a coach to come and like coach some of your sessions for you, you're pretty much like breaking even. So that's what a lot of people get wrong. Like around my town, there's so many group training boot camps and fields and stuff. And I know that they're just coaching every night of the week, like I used to, which is fine if that's like something that you want to do. But as you get older and have a relationship or have kids, like do you really want to be going in a pissing wet field at 6 a.m. and at 6 p.m. coaching groups forever?
Yeah, that was actually why I wanted to move on from coaching in the gym actually myself, was because I didn't see myself still coaching in the gym when I was 40 years old. So it was like, okay, that then started this challenging thought process to be like, okay, I need to move on from it. So you mentioned something there, you increase your price, but you also increase the value, which is super key there, because it's not a case of, oh, I can just triple my prices.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be that value add as well. So was that the additional nutrition and guidance that you added, was that online? So was it then kind of like a hybrid program of both the boot camps in person plus the online support?
Yeah, so we realized that the 2 or 3 key things that were missing was like nutrition, accountability, and like the community part of it.
Yeah.
So we already had the workouts. Like the workouts really, they haven't changed in the last 5 years. Like you can go to my workout, go to Bob's boot camp or any other workout in my local town, pretty much going to be the same.
Yeah.
But we kind of attached the hybrid, the online element to it, especially for newer members that are just starting their journey with us. And that was with like nutrition, check-ins, accountability, phone calls. And that's how in the early stage, typically in the first kind of 6 weeks to 6 months, we were able to get someone a really great transformation. Because like I said, the training for most people isn't enough. Like, I don't know, is there 150 hours in a week or slightly more than that? We can only really influence their behavior for 3 hours or 3 45-minute workouts if they come and train with us. And most of them, because most of our audience are like busy parents, 35 and above, like they just weren't getting nutrition right because that wasn't their main priority, or they weren't being consistent with mindset, or they were like over consuming calories on the weekend. So I wanted to try and influence them outside of the workouts when they weren't with me. And as soon as we started to do that, we were getting much better results. We were getting more buy-in. People were, because they've also paid more money for it, like they were paying more attention.
Yeah.
Because £30 a month for most people, like they don't really care if £1 a day if they weren't coming. Like we have a lot of inactive members at my gym because it's £30 a month. Whereas my group training, we have like 98% attendance every week because it's £90 a month and people actually care about coming. They've got friends there. We know everyone's names. Like everyone knows each other.
Yeah.
A bit like CrossFit, like, like that's why CrossFit's so good, I think, because of the community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's saying, you mentioned their community and accountability. people will pay a lot of money for those two things. And if you're going to build a program, I think that those have to be two integral parts of that program, because it will create, ultimately some sustainability within your business. The knowledge and the information, like the nutrition, the training, like you said, like most of that stuff, you could go on Google nowadays and
get it off Google, literally. Yeah,
exactly that. But the community and accountability is what people are paying for and looking for, and that is where the results come, is through those things. And yeah, CrossFit has focused massively on that community aspect, and that's why they've been so successful. Yeah, love it. Super interesting. So I know that you've built an amazing community with Tribe Training.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, how have you been able to build such a strong community with Tribe Training?
So one of the most important parts is culture. And like, I didn't really know what that was 2 years ago. If you would have said culture, like, I would have had no idea. Like, I would have looked at it like, oh, culture in a different country or a different language or different food. But I've listened to a lot of podcasts and read books and had mentors talk about like company culture and like how your clients and community, like how they kind of buy into that culture. And something that I didn't really know that I was doing, I kind of knew what I was doing, but I read a book in 2016 when I was traveling, called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And like the whole premise of the book was like, I think there's like 5 rules about how to influence people and win friends. And a couple of those was like, remember people's names and show a genuine care and interest in the person that you're engaging with, the person you're speaking with. So I like made it super important that I would remember everyone's name that ever come to my group. And I used to do this thing where people would turn up. I only used to do one workout a week when I first started on a Monday night. We'd have a ladies group at 6 and a men's group at 7. And I would go round, sometimes we'd have 35 people. I'd go around every individual who was there last week and who I've just introduced, who just walked through the door again this week, and then introduce them to the new person, like Sally, Jane, Susan. This is Sarah. It's her first session. Make sure she feels welcome. And I don't know how I did it, because before I read that book, I wasn't very good with names. I'd get everyone's names wrong when I was teaching. And then we made like that. I was doing that individually when it was just me running all the sessions. I always remembered everyone's names, like why they were there, what their goals was, what they did for a job, what their kids' names were, how old their kids were, what their struggles were. And then because I did that, and the way we made people feel when they first turned up, of like feeling comfortable and welcomed, because like gyms are the opposite of that.
Yeah.
CrossFit gyms are like, they do it really well. I've kind of copied the CrossFit model where like there's a lot of team spirit, camaraderie, but your general gym, like even some of those I feel
it's weird if you talk to someone like,
yeah,
hey, I've got to stop my music and talk to you.
yeah, like don't talk to me, mate, I'm training. So I made that like super important. And because of the audience we help, I wouldn't say they're anti-gym goers, but like most of our community are over 40 and have not really got on with gyms. Like what we do is not as hardcore as like CrossFit and your functional fitness gyms. It's very much like middle-aged men and women over 35, over 40 that just want to like lose a couple of stone whilst having beer and drinking Prosecco. So their experience with like group training and stuff before gyms has never been that great.
Yeah.
And they've like been in a gym for 6 months. No one's ever talked to them, and they've only been twice because they were scared to go in the weights area. So like, I made sure it was like super important that everyone would know each other's names. Some of my like more regular members who have been with me a while would really help out the newer members. And then as we've grown and as I've had coaches, now all of my coaches bar one, so we've got like 10 coaches now across in training and who work for me. All of my coaches now have been previous members. So like,
love that.
That's kind of like growing like organically, that they've been on the journey. They know how it feels to turn up to their first workout. They know how it feels when you might be the unfittest or the heaviest person in the room, because they've also been there. So like, I always get when people come, like I don't turn up to workouts as much anymore, but people always tell me like, oh, I've never felt so comfortable, or everyone was super nice. And that's just something that's grown. And I think it started just from me remembering people's names.
Honestly, it sounds like you're a good human. It's so simple, isn't it? When you revert back to it, it's actually showing a level of care when someone walks in the gym. And And also what comes up for me is it frustrates me that in 2022, people still feel uncomfortable going into the gym. That's not frustration at that person.
Yeah.
It's frustration that something is still wrong in society, that someone still feels that pressure and that they don't feel confident going in. That's still something that the industry needs to work on heavily, is it shouldn't, going into the gym shouldn't have this scary aspect to it. I think, I never felt that. I was always a sporty kid and, kind of go into the gym, but I also know that there's a lot of people that still feel that anxiety and stress going to the gym. So that's such a shame. There's work for us to do.
No, definitely. I can relate, not because of the training thing, that I feel fine in the gym, because like for me and you, it's kind of our natural environment.
Yeah.
For me, it's when I go out, like if I go to a nightclub, especially with my girlfriend, or fiance actually, she is really good at dancing.
Yeah.
I'm horrendous. So like I get super uncomfortable. Like, clammy hands. I don't know what to do. I don't know what my body should be doing. So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to stand at the edge and watch. And I just kind of basically don't make myself like an idiot, hide, and is everyone looking at me and judging me?
Yeah.
And unless I'm absolutely steaming, like, which I don't really do that much anymore, like I used to at uni, I try and avoid it as much as possible. And I tell that story to some of our members when they first join, because like I don't understand how it feels to be uncomfortable in a group training environment or a gym. But for me, it's like, oh, take me to a dance floor. And I'm like, I freeze because I'm dancing. But yeah, we try and make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, I know.
I like that you're able to relate with the members and put yourself in their shoes, to be like, that you felt that feeling, but you haven't been in that exact scenario. Super. Have you ever had any like panic attacks or anything, or anxiety and attacks or anything like that?
With me or with members?
With you?
Yeah. So I don't. For me, I don't like tight spaces.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple. When I was at university, we were driving to a football match. There was 5 of us, and ever since then, if I'm in the back of a car, I don't like the. I need it to be a 5-door car. If not, I have to be in the front seat.
Yeah.
The passenger seat, because if I can't either be sitting next to an open window or a door that I can physically open, like I'm like kind of panic attack when I was in the final year at university. And ever since then, like, because I couldn't really, before I had that, I couldn't really relate to it.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend sometimes has them now, when like I support her with her breathing and stuff. And when we first got together, I was like, what's going on? Just like, get over it. Like, naive of me to say that. But yeah, I've had a couple, and it's usually to do with like confined space and stuff. But I often see it at Tribe, especially when it's like people's first part of their journey, like the first few weeks, because like you're turning into a new group. Yeah. And typically when people join us, it's because they're unfit, possibly overweight, and haven't done anything in a long time.
Mm-hmm. It's an uncomfortable step.
Yeah, it's like me on a dance floor with 50 people who can dance. It's like, oh shit, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I've ever shared this before, but I've had one that I can remember. Panic attack, anxiety attack. I don't think it's a topic that's discussed often enough. But for me, it was actually very similar situation for you, and the dancing was, I was out in a social place, and I wasn't drinking, and it was the first time, I think, after COVID, being out socializing at like a bar. And I'm normally extremely social, open, talk to anyone, don't mind public speaking. But in this situation, I just started like panicking, and it was a really strange thing. I just remember my heart rate going through the roof, sweating, didn't want to be around people. Yeah, it was something that I'd never experienced before. So it's like interesting when I reflect upon my coaching days to see actually the courage that some people showed to even just show up for that first time. Crazy.
It's difficult to. I tell my coaches this. I'm like, because we don't feel like that. Like, you have to be able to relate, because like it's our natural environment. Yeah. But like literally, people are terrified standing in front of you. They're so scared. Yeah. And they don't want to mess up, and they think everyone's judging them and looking at them. Really, no one is. But same as no one's looking at me on the dance floor, but that's all my kind of internal brain is saying, like, Callum, go away, hide, are you doing things right, move your legs, like, and that's what's happening at workouts. So I make sure a lot of my coaches, and I think the good thing about having coaches that have been a member, like, they find it a lot easier to relate, because that can make people, it can make or break people's journey, because I've had people like come and do a class, they're like, oh, I did a class 10 years ago and I haven't been back in since. A good one, negative experience.
Yeah, it's tough to hear that, isn't it? I remember coaching one person, and they'd come in the gym, and they basically were like, oh, this is the first time I've been in the gym for like 25 years, you know, and he basically sat at a desk for 25 years and hadn't done anything. And we'd done a warm up at 10%, not even, and that was enough for the day.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that reminder of like, okay, everyone's on their own journey, everyone's got their own obstacles to overcome. I'd love to delve a little bit more into actual gym ownership compared to the boot camp ownership. I'd love to know some of the positives and negatives of like both, really, of like if you were to put them against each other.
Yeah. So for me, the experiences have been very different, because Tribe Training is purely my business. I founded it, I own it outright. It's my baby, and it's something that I've always been brought into since day one. Whereas a gym, we own, I own in a partnership.
Yeah.
Initially there was 4 guys, now there's 3 guys. So like the dynamics of working with other people is completely different. And I know you kind of worked for a team and were a big part of that for many years, so I'm sure you can relate. But like dealing with different personalities, dealing with 3 other men that were all entrepreneurial, we all had egos. I was the youngest, so that had its own dynamic. It was my first business or my second business that I owned. I was inexperienced. So that was like a really different dynamic for me, because at Tribe, if I think it's a good idea, we're doing it because it's mine. No one especially now I've got staff, so I kind of have to like run it by them and see what they think, but I'm going to do it anyway. But whereas when I joined the gym, I was like, I couldn't just do things. I had to worry about like, did it impact them, or what were their thoughts on it, or is it okay to do that, or did they have a different idea? So that was a real, I wouldn't say struggle, but that was like a challenge. That was a kind of a challenging part of the journey. And then also because of when I first started, and still now, like one of my natural traits is to serve people, to help people, and to be liked. Like that's something that the liked bit part has reduced over the last few years. But when I first bought the gym, it was like I would just say yes to everything. So I'd be a yes man. Like I got a pretty bad deal to start with in the gym. But I agreed to it. I said I was going to do it all. But basically, I was running the gym like 60 hours a week, just me. Like wasn't getting paid for it. But that was me. Like I was kind of a bit naive and really wanted to buy this gym. So I said I'd manage it, I'd look after it, and I was in there all the time. And I'm sure you've been in a lot of CrossFit boxes and stuff, but I was literally like, when we first brought it, industrial gym, no heating. It was terrible when we first brought it, like pretty bad. And when you say you own a gym, like I tell people now what I do, like, oh, I own a couple of boot camps and I own a gym. And like the reaction between a boot camp and a gym is completely different. Like people don't really care when you own a boot camp, whereas my boot camp like makes more money and we've got more members. But when you tell them you own a gym, people's eyes light up, because I think people like think of like Dodgeball, Globo Gym or something, and they think it's pretty cool. When in reality, it was like dark, cold, because it wasn't that busy. A lot of the time I had to be sitting in this freezing cold tin box on an industrial estate on my own, cold, not knowing what I was doing.
It's really interesting because I actually, on reflection, I had that same thought process. When you mentioned you own a gym, I'm like, oh, like really cool. Boot camp, I don't think too much into it. So like trying to think why that is, especially when, you know, you just mentioned, okay, financially the boot camp's actually running more profitable, and I see that probably continuing. It's really interesting reflection actually.
Yeah, I think it's the perception of like a gym is more of like a tangible, like, oh, it's a gym, it's got machines, it's got equipment. People think like swimming pool with sauna, jacuzzi, like ours don't have that. but yeah, the two things are very different. And working with other people, I wasn't used to, because we bought the gym in 2018, I believe. And about a year and a half before that, I already had tribe training. I was already a personal trainer. So the reason why I left teaching was ultimately because I didn't really like being told what to do.
Yeah.
I hated like the structure of having to go to work at a certain time, to come home at a certain time, and to turn up to meetings when I had to, and get paid on a certain date. That was one of the biggest reasons why I didn't like it, like not having the flexibility and freedom to work when I want, earn how much money I want, help as many people as I wanted to. But then I went into the gym, and I kind of got that job back where I had to be in the gym at certain hours of the day. It was like a 60-hour week gig. I was reporting to people. Like I had to like talk to them about what was going on, and we had to like share opinions and ideas. So that was tough at the start. I struggled with that.
Yeah. It's definitely a part of PTing that people forget, is that it can be a lot of hours. It can be split shifts. It can also be, sometimes if you've got the wrong gig, it can be a lot of cleaning the gym, you know.
Yeah, it's not that sexy.
And it's like I know a lot of people will explain it as a glorified cleaner, and arguably that's part of the process of learning the ropes at the start. So, you know, I think a lot of us done that, but it's part of that learning curve, right?
Yeah,
And there's definitely, you know, there is also a considerable amount of opportunity as a PT as well. We talk a lot about some of the downsides of PTing, but actually there is so many upsides too.
yeah.
You know, like you say, that impact, the amount you get to connect with people. Obviously, you can build yourself up to be earning a very, very respectable salary. It's fun. You're not having to dress up in a suit potentially every single day. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits that can still come from being a PT.
No, I still PT now. Like I do a couple of clients a week.
Yeah, nice.
But like it's an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, not poo-pooing on PT. It's like
I wanted to get back into coaching on the gym floor, just for fun. Just wanna do it just for the fun of coaching again, because I miss that connection with like a large group of people. You know,
yeah, it is amazing. Like when I 6 months ago, I kind of took myself away from the timetable fully. So we do 30 sessions a week, and I removed myself fully, and I kind of was in this office that I'm in now, and I lost my identity a bit. I was because when you are like, you know, like when you coach, like you're not a celebrity, but like
it's a power position.
Yeah, everyone like loves you, respects you, you have a laugh, people like listen to what you're saying, and then like you get a really good feeling, you see people's results and transformations. And then I'd like stop that and like would sit in this office for 12 hours a day, like looking at my whiteboard and my laptop, and I was like, oh, this isn't quite as fun as I thought it was going to
be. Yeah. How did you manage with COVID?
I managed completely fine, because at that time I had a mentor.
Yeah.
And I was working with him for like 18 months in total, but that was like halfway into the journey we were working together. And he was like, you've got two choices. I kind of already knew this anyway. I was going to continue cracking on anyway, but it's like, use COVID as an excuse to stop you growing your business and stop helping people, or flip that on its head, double down on what you're doing, help more people, because you can potentially reach further audiences in other local towns, and don't kind of let it be an excuse. Like I never really listened to the news, or never listened to things like that anyway, or had other people influence my decisions, like my parents and stuff. I kind of wouldn't let that, or what society was doing, I would kind of do the opposite. So I just used it as an opportunity to grow, to continue to help people, because for a lot of people, especially during that first part, I don't know about you, but I know you work with a lot of PTs and online coaches. For a lot of people, that was like we were like the best part of their day. I know it sounds silly, but like they'd come on our 45-minute Zoom workout, and that would be like the best part of their day, to like talk to someone or see someone they knew. So for me, it was super important that like I kept doing that. We were doing loads of sessions. We were doing online coffee mornings. We were doing like live gigs and stuff. So I loved COVID didn't really bother me, to be honest. Like I used it to grow my business. I got the most shredded I've ever been. I got in really good shape during that time. So it didn't affect me that much, to be honest. The hardest part for me was losing the connection with the clients because
Yeah.
you were just like shouting to Zoom all the time.
Yeah.
And you didn't have
Yeah.
the tangible part.
It's obviously it's great. It's great hearing you done so well. For me, it was actually virtually the same because I was already completely online. There wasn't actually as much of a transition. And, I work for my office anyway. So there wasn't like a huge change to my day to day. It was just the limitations, obviously, that were added. When you look back at your entire journey from the PGCE to going on the retreat and kind of finding yourself, as you would say,
Yeah.
to then starting tribe training to now the multiple locations, the gyms, it can almost sound relatively seamless. But what's been some of those challenges that you've had to overcome? Or has there been any like major triggers that's really forced change during that time?
I think the most difficult part of like my journey so far, and I think other people's journey, is firstly, like a lot of it's, as a being a business owner, is lonely. A lot of it's independent. So you don't have a boss, you don't have a team, or I didn't to start with. So it was just me, myself, and I trying to build businesses and stuff. And everybody else around me, not so much now because I surround myself with people like you and the business program we're on, but like was doing the opposite of what I was doing.
Yeah.
They were working 9 till 5, happy in their jobs, happy and comfortable to have 2 or 3 holidays a year and live life how they wanted to, which I don't have a problem with. But for me, like mediocrity, living a normal life, like it scares the shit out of me, like doing what society says you should do, like have a family and go on holiday twice a year and work 9 till 5. Like for me, like the reason why I work a lot and want to help a lot of people is because I don't want that at all. But everyone else around me did that. And I'd spent a lot of money and time training to be a PE teacher. So that first part was really tough because my mum was like, oh, like, why are you not teaching?
Yeah.
Like, you'll be good at it. You've spent a lot of money on it. You should do it. It's a good job. It's a good career. And then I spent like £15,000 to buy a gym. Like I didn't have, like I had to beg, borrow and steal the money. I remember I was coaching netball teams and everything just to try and get some money. And my mum was like, you sure you want it? Mum and dad were like, sure you want to do this? Like, you don't know anything about running the gym. You're only 25. Like, so like you get a lot of doubt from other people. And I think really it's usually only because one, they care about you, but secondly, because of their own insecurities of they haven't done the thing that you're going to do. Like my mum, like she's amazing, I love her, but she's never run a business. She's never run a gym. My dad's always been kind of the breadwinner, so she's never had to do any of those things. So her fear is like of me failing and the fact that she hasn't done it and she doesn't have the knowledge and understanding to do it. So like people around you, if they haven't like grown a business or they haven't been self-employed, they'll kind of they'll express that onto you. So it can be really difficult to kind of forget the noise.
Yeah.
Tune, like I'm sure you've experienced it. Like
Massively.
How long have you been online for now?
Good question. I think now fully online for 5 years, I think. But I probably spent the first 2 or 3 years, as I would say, just in the trenches, where virtually everyone around me loved, cared for me, but wanted me to quit, wanted me to go back to the gym or wanted me to go get, a normal 9 to 5. Like I say, nothing wrong with that, but it was not an option for me. And what happened for me was the more people that were like, oh, you need to quit that job, you need to quit what you're doing, it then spurred me on to do it even more and like not want to give in at all. It's really interesting.
Sorry.
Go on.
Did you, to start with, like, did you tell people you're online coach and stuff, or were you still like a PT in disguise to start with? Did you kind of accept that identity? Because a lot of people, if you said you're an online coach, like if I told my mum I'm an online coach, she'd be like, you're what?
Yeah. Honestly, most people around me didn't know what I was doing for a long time because I had a mixture of both the online coaching and then learning the business side too. So and that was, I think, part of the difficulty, was a lot of the people that cared for me and loved me and wanted to see me succeed, but they didn't have a clue what I was doing. And even now, I think they still struggle to understand how I'm able to earn an income and, you know, be so successful from my office next to my bedroom, you know, my home office. So there was definitely some confusion, and also like even just working online was still relatively fresh, because this was still a couple of years before, you know, COVID hit, before it was the normal for everyone to be on Zoom and to be working online.
Yeah, because you were doing that in like
Yeah,
2019, weren't you?
yeah,
And
yeah.
how have you found like actually being, where do you live? Near Southampton, or I just made that up?
No, so I live in the southwest of England. I moved it's West-of-Supermare near Bristol, but
Bristol, okay, yeah.
I moved back just before COVID hit. The timing was like so lucky. So I've practically lived out of a backpack for probably like 3 or 4 years. I was kind of just traveling around constantly. And actually, it was never an issue when I was away of living out of a backpack. The challenge was always when I came home, because I'd have somewhere to stay with family, but you can only stay there for, you know, a few days before you're overstaying your welcome. So with at that point, business started to improve, things started to get a bit better. So I was like, okay, let me get a base at home, so I've got somewhere to come back to, shower, change, you know, wash the clothes, go off again. And as soon as I got this apartment, then is when COVID hit, and yeah, things changed massively from then. But yeah, it's been a hell of a journey.
No,
um
mate, love it.
you mentioned about that, like the loneliness in business, and I've definitely encountered that during COVID, where you feel like, you know, what I'm doing isn't normal. My family don't understand it. They want to see me safe, they want to see me secure, and me taking risks with business, putting myself out there, doing all these things, it doesn't fit that bracket. um so I love that you mentioned that kind of loneliness and going against the norm, um because it's, yeah, it is challenging, and you've got to overcome so many like mental games to be able to see that progress and be able to actually, you know, to give yourself a good opportunity.
No, definitely. Have you thought about quitting and doing other things over the last 5 years? I know I still get those thoughts often, because like it's tough, right?
Yeah, I think so it's natural to go through different seasons. Normally every, I think, 5 to 7 years you'll transition through different seasons. So I kind of went for like a coaching season, and then I went through the online business season, and now I'm kind of transitioning to this place where, in a way, I want to start to link these a little bit more. So it's not a case of quitting what I'm doing, it's just the next evolution for me. So at the moment it is definitely like a lot of reflection about, okay, that path. I'm in a really healthy place where I'm like, oh, I can actually achieve anything. And like, so like that brings new challenges of like, okay, well, what do I want to achieve then? Like, where do I want to take this? What do I want to do? And I've been loving this process of this podcast and just creation and serving people that way. And yeah, that's something that I want to lean into more. And then also running some more of the business contracts where I'm a little bit more, ironically, not customer facing, because I've spent all this time always being the coach and front facing, but actually I'm now learning the behind the scenes, and you know, the potential of scaling, and an opportunity comes that way. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey.
How have you found the because I'm just transitioning now to work online a little bit more. How have you found that? Like, actually, have you found that you've been able to build like meaningful connections and have impact like through a laptop or through? So I know a lot of the time you spend traveling, but
Yeah. It never compares to meeting in person, because you just cannot learn the intricacies about someone until you've met them in person. Ultimately, you see all these people from shoulders up. You know, you don't know how tall they are. You don't know how, you know, if they're overweight. You don't know how muscly they are. You don't know if they walk funny. They don't. You know, there's certain things like that you just can't beat. What's really helped me is being intentional with my connections and going and being part of communities, because I've had periods of time where I haven't been part of any communities or not working on something, and that is definitely when I notice these drop-offs in my own like headspace.
Yeah.
So now it's a very conscious effort to be like, oh, I want to be surrounded by some cool people that I'm learning from and that I'm hopefully helping. And for me to do that, I have to go and lead that conversation. I have to go and find those communities and maybe even pay to be a part of them.
Yeah.
But if that's what keeps me in a good headspace, that's going to allow me to earn considerably more, serve, so many more people. So that is probably the biggest distinction, is that you have to go and actively search for those communities. It's not just going to come to you.
No, I agree with that. It's not, because I've tried for that to just wait for it to come to you, and it doesn't. Be proactive with it, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's also why I'm like, would like to get back into some coaching in person, not because of financial side, but just because of that connection. And I just truly love coaching. I love helping people. So that for me would give me that kind of perfect. Obviously, everything I'm doing online allows me to travel, allows me all this, special privileges. And then that still have the offline, which allows that connection too.
Awesome, man. Love it.
So yeah, we will see. What's the progression? What's next for Tribe?
So this is something that I have been spending a lot of time on. Up to now, I've spent a lot of time building Tribe training, and over the last 12 to 18 months, I've been on a journey myself. Me and you were on the same business program. It's not really business program. The Awakened Man, which is about becoming a better, a more awakened man. Yeah. And I still don't really know what that means, but that's been like a lot of growth for me in the last year or so, like actually understanding what it is I want. Mm-hmm. And that has changed a couple of times, and more recently it's changed again. Because if you would have asked me 2-3 months ago, it would have been to have multiple locations, and that would be through my boot camp. So through Tribe training, to have a location in lots of small towns around the southeast and where I live, and possibly beyond that, which I'm still not 100% sure if I do or I don't want that. I have a passion for helping people, and helping people with fitness. Like at the moment, fitness is the vehicle. Fitness, nutrition, mindset is a vehicle that I help people with. It might not always be that, but I'm not sure if I want to have the pressure and the kind of location, like locality of actually being in a certain place at a certain time.
Yeah.
Like of having to live in the UK forever, for example. Yeah. Something that me and my partner talk about a lot is, and something that is a goal of mine, is to own a second house in Spain.
Nice.
And to be able to still generate income, work, have a lifestyle, have a family, me and my girlfriend to have kids, but to not always be living in the UK. And at the moment, where I'm currently at in my journey, and as a business owner, as a man, I don't know how to navigate that whilst having 20 gyms.
Yeah.
Because I'm struggling with 2. And when I say struggling, it's not like we're going bankrupt or anything, but it's like at the moment that's kind of what I can manage.
Yeah.
Having 3 locations with 150 members and 6 to 10 coaches across both of those. And I'm not sure if I want to continue to expand that. So we actually met 4 years ago because I was exploring a more online coaching model, which is to coach women with more like deeper coaching. I know you spoke about coaching then. I know you do loads of one-to-one work with like business owners and stuff, so you build a really good relationship with them. But that's something that it's hard to get that in a big group. Mm-hmm. Yes, we get great results. Yes, we help people. But when there's 120 members or 150 members, the connection you can actually build with people is limited. So like that's something that I still miss, and that's something that I want to do. So I'm thinking to grow both simultaneously, and to slow down the growth of the gyms, the boot camps, and maybe to expand slower, and maybe have 2 or 3 long term, and to have them as like the best they can be, and to really kind of fill them in the two communities we've got them in, Haverhill and Cambridge, and to be making a really big impact in those towns, and then potentially offer more managerial and possibly ownership positions to my coaches.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, I know how hard it can be to be a personal trainer. Like, the industry tells you that you can earn loads of money, but I haven't met many personal trainers that actually earn any good, earn that good money, and they're not working like loads of hours in the week and 6 a.m. Whereas I have the ability, Tribe Training has the ability to help lots of people, as in our community and our members, but also provide a career for PTs or ex-members to actually have like a business. Like an actual business. So that's something that I'm passionate about as well as being able to possibly work remotely. And
really cool.
That doesn't mean sitting on a beach in Spain smoking cigars doing nothing, but not to be tied to where I live right now, because
I see that
I've got 10 gyms.
I think something to note, when you first started as a PT, seeing where you're at now, you'd be like, oh, no way, I won't have the skills to do that. That seems so far away. So like where you mentioned about owning 20 locations or what those next steps are, like I have no doubts your skill will keep going and that will become your normal. So it's just that adjustment period. But it's I love the amount of reflection that you're doing and the awareness you're bringing to it. I think that everyone can take something away from that and being like, you have to truly delve into what it is that you truly want, which is it's cool. It's really good that you're going through that level of reflection. I have a question for you, and this question that I ask every single one of my guests. I don't know if you know that this was coming, but the question is, what advice would your future self give you in this current moment?
I think future Callum would tell myself to continue backing myself on this journey, because I don't want to sound like an arrogant dick, but when I put my mind to something and when I go all in on that thing, whether that was to save a lot of money in a short period of time to buy the gym, or to become a personal trainer, or buy my first house, like when I turn it on and I actually go all in on that thing, I get what I wanted to, and I become, I don't want to say successful in that area, but I achieve what I want to achieve. It's when I have doubt, and when I doubt myself, which I think everyone has, or when I tell myself these stories like, I'm only 29, who am I to have a business, or who am I to tell my older coaches what to do, or I've got ADHD so I can't concentrate. Like when I tell myself these stories, that they're not really that true. But if I back myself and just go all in on it, like I know, but I think it's because for me, like failing in something, like it isn't an option. Like not doing well at something, I think that comes from like being competitive, like playing sport and stuff.
Love that. Continue backing yourself.
I think that's something that's kind of just hit as well, just whilst I was there, because I've been having some doubt lately as well, because I've been toying with different things to do.
Interesting. Love it. Well, dude, this has been so much fun. All of your links are going to be down below, so the guys can check you out. But is there anywhere in particular that would be good for the guys to go and learn a little bit more about you and what you do?
So we have like the two kind of things I spoke about today is Tribe Training. So we're just Tribe Training on Instagram, and we have another location which is Tribe Training Cambridge. And then the business, which is going to be supporting women, is through my Instagram page, and that's women who want to lose weight without dieting, and that's at the Callum Slater. And we're building the Empowered Women program to empower women to get lifelong results without being a slave to their diets.
Love
so yeah,
that.
check them out. And thank you, bro, for inviting me on.
It's been fun. It's been so great just to learn more about your story and the boot camps and the gyms. And I don't have as much experience with boot camps, so super cool to just to learn about that. And it's impressive, dude, what you've been able to do and accomplish, and it's exciting for us to come next.
Thanks, man. And I appreciate you doing this as well. Like, I know you've spoken about how this is something that you're passionate about. Like, go do this, get that camper van, and it's like a pleasure to be on a podcast talking to you, sharing. So yeah, you carry on with this. It's been unreal.
Appreciate it, man. Legend. My name is Samuel Main, and I truly hope that you've got value from today's video. If you have, please do hit like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow.